They say time is invisible, that it simply passes and disappears. But there was once a man who disagreed. He believed time could be planted, cared for, and allowed to bloom. He called his little backyard the living clock. There, between the song of birds and the scent of damp earth, he planted hours, each one representing a moment he didn't want to forget. His wife's laughter, his son's first steps, the quiet afternoon he chose to stay instead of leaving. He tended that garden with patience, watering it as if speaking to the past. And slowly, something extraordinary began to happen. The flowers carried scents of memories, whispers of voices, and the faint echo of vanished days. But time, like every garden, has its seasons. When the man realized this, his garden changed from blossoms into living memories. This is the story of a man who learned that remembering is not about clinging to what's gone, but about keeping it alive within us. A story that teaches us time does not fade away. It blooms in those who choose to remember. He lived alone in a small house on the edge of a quiet village. The streets had seen generations come and go. Children who grew up, laughter that turned into echoes, clocks that stopped without warning. No one remembered exactly when he had arrived. Only that, for as long as anyone could recall, the man had a strange habit. Every morning, before the sun opened its eyes, he would walk to his garden carrying a small wooden box. Inside were seeds, tiny, different shapes and shades, kept like treasures. But he didn't say he was planting flowers. He said he was planting hours. Each one carries its own weight, he murmured softly. Some are heavy with longing, others with hope. At first, the neighbors thought it was just the odd habit of a lonely old man. But there was something about the way he spoke, calm, certain, that made the impossible sound almost real. Years ago, he had been a watchmaker. His small shop in the village square was a refuge of ticking and silence. Wall clocks, pocket watches, wristwatches, they all spoke to him. Each had its own voice, its own rhythm. Then one day, silence moved in. His wife, the one who had shared his every hour, fell ill. And suddenly, time no longer made sense. The hands of every clock in his shop began to feel meaningless. When she passed, he closed the shop. They say he sat outside the locked door for weeks, listening to the echo of clocks that no longer existed. Then one morning, he took a handful of dry soil from the nearby hills and scattered it across his yard. "If time insists on running away," he whispered, "then let it find roots here." At first, it seemed like a gesture of grief, a way to cope. But days later, tiny leaves began to sprout. They didn't look like any plant he'd ever seen. Each leaf seemed to shimmer faintly, as if something inside it was breathing. The man began to take notes in a small leather notebook. 6 a.m., the hour of her laughter. 3 p.m., when our boy fell off his bicycle. 10 p.m., the night she sang while it rained. Whenever the wind passed through, the memories came alive again. He could almost hear her humming in the kitchen, smell the scent of freshly brewed coffee, feel her hand resting gently on his. One morning, he noticed something extraordinary. One of the flowers carried the same fragrance as the perfume she wore on their wedding day. Another, when it swayed in the breeze, seemed to hum her favorite tune. That's when he understood. Time could be remembered if you cared for it with love. Months passed, and word of the strange garden began to spread. At first, people came out of curiosity. Then, they came out of longing. Old friends who had lost someone. Young people haunted by regret. busy souls who had forgotten what silence sounded like. He welcomed them all with kindness. "Each of us," he said, "has hours we forgot to water. But time is patient. It waits to be remembered." He would hand them small seeds wrapped in cloth. "Plant these gently," he would say, "not to relive what was, but to thank what was given." Those who returned spoke of changes they couldn't explain. One man, voice trembling, told him, "I buried an hour, the one when my father taught me to fish. Now, when the wind blows, I swear I can smell the river again." The watchmaker only smiled. That was how the garden worked. But time, wise as it is, grows tired too. As the years went by, the man's steps slowed. The flowers grew wild. Some blossomed early, others never opened at all. Still, he went out every day, watering, tending, whispering to them. "Each fallen petal," he said, "is a memory saying goodbye. And every goodbye is the beginning of another hello." One autumn afternoon, he noticed the garden had grown quieter. The wind carried no voices, only the sound of its own breath. And for the first time, he wondered, does time ever tire of being remembered? That night, he dreamed of walking through an endless field. Every step revealed a tiny clock buried in the ground. Some still ticked softly. Others had stopped long ago, covered in moss and time. And a voice, perhaps hers, perhaps his own, whispered, "What blooms must also rest, and what rests will one day bloom again." When dawn came, he woke with a peaceful stillness inside him. He took the last seed from the wooden box, the one he had never dared to plant. It was labeled, "The Hour of Farewell." He walked to the center of the garden, the place where the first flowers had grown so many years ago. He pressed the seed into the soil and whispered, "May this hour bloom for those who come after me." Then he sat down on the old wooden chair and closed his eyes. Sunlight filtered through the leaves. The wind carried the faint echo of footsteps, as if someone was walking toward him. They say that morning, the entire garden bloomed at once. The air filled with perfume and warmth, and every petal reflected light, as if time itself had started breathing again. The man did not wake, but the clock on his wall, silent for years, began to tick. Years passed. The house grew quiet, but the garden remained, a place where the air felt lighter, where silence carried a heartbeat. The villagers began to call it the Garden of Hours. They said that if you walked through it slowly, you could feel your own past touching your shoulder like an old friend. One day, a woman who had lost her husband came to visit. She sat on the same bench where the old watchmaker once rested. As she looked around, she noticed a single flower, golden luminous, its petals shaped like clock hands. At its base was a small metal plaque, weathered by time. It read, "Time blooms in those who choose to remember." She smiled, and for the first time in years she cried. Not from sorrow, but from gratitude. The man who planted hours in his garden never wanted to stop time. He only wanted to talk to it. And perhaps that's the secret. Time doesn't stop when we hold it tightly. It blooms when we love it. They say that on calm nights, you can still hear the faint ticking between the flowers. And if you close your eyes and listen closely, you might hear his voice whispering, "Water your hours. Some bloom slowly, but every one of them, every single one, will bloom again."